Okay. So let's see. There's a few new verbs here. So as usual,
we should start doing this with compound verbs to make it more interesting.
Okay. I need to get my list of compound verbs first, sure. I'll bear that in mind. Yeah, not a bad idea, actually.
Maybe also add the volitional form.
The volitional. Sure.
Easy.
Okay, if you want to throw yourself in this, guys. Volitional.
In volitional. Light volitional.
It's I, yeah. Okay, so as usual, infinitive, te form, polite, volitional, potential, experience, obligative, passive, and causative. Okay, so just in case you're feeling worried, just a reminder. Let me just stick in a little box here. For the obligative, the passive, and causative, you need to make the plain negative form stem. Form stem each time. So, for example, if I do iku, to go, the obligative, well, the first thing I should do really is just make the plain negative form. So ikanai, ikanai. Obviously, this is only for group 1, really. Group 1. Ikanai. So I can take off the nai for a moment and put it to one side. I'm left with ika, ika. Then the obligative, ika nakereba narimasen. The passive, keep ika in your mind and add reru. The causative, keep ika in your mind, add seru. Okay. Each time you've got to reserve some of your brain for keeping the plain negative stem, and then just change the fitting on the end, the suffix on the end. Okay, so let's start with Monia. How about to stand? So this is the intransitive. To stand.
To stand, tatsu.
Tatsu, good.
Tatsu, tatte, tachimasu.
Good.
Volitional. Tachitai.
Oh no, sorry. This means let's stand up. Let's stand.
So I don't know what.
You probably do when I tell you. Tachimasho.
Tachimasho. Okay. Tachimasho.
Yeah.
Potential tateru.
Good. Tateru.
Tateru. Tatta koto ga arimasu.
Very good. Yes.
Tatta nakereba narimasen.
Good.
With passive and causative, I don't know exactly. Tatta reru is passive.
Good. Yep.
And causative I've never done.
Okay. So we just put seru on the end instead of reru. Yeah.
Tata seru.
Tata seru. Good. Yes. Excellent. Right. While you're doing this, I'm gonna follow up on Joel's comment to stand up. Okay. Tom, let's do one of these from over here. To take out, to move out something. This is the transitive form.
To go out is deru. Is it a little bit the same, or?
It's a little bit like deru. It's actually the it's the transitive version of the verb deru.
Deraru?
No, it's can anybody help? On time, Joel. I know dekakeru and deru basically one's compound of the other. It's dasu, dashimasu.
I should have known that.
Dasu.
It's also a little bit to hide away. Dasu, no? Or no? It's also to hide away a little. Dasu, no?
No, it's like so it comes where we might use it is the word for a drawer on a desk. This is called hikidashi. So hiku means to pull out, and then dasu means to take out.
Okay, so dasu, dashite,
Good.
Dashimasu,
Yes.
daso.
Oh, okay. You want the potential plain form. Okay.
I wanted the volitional, potential plane because that's more difficult to. It's not
It
the
is.
same for group 2 and group 1. It's different. So
Quite so. So potential plain. It's a bit of a
like this
troublemaker.
is my head.
A bit of a troublemaker, isn't he, Tom?
It's kind of
Isn't
revision.
it volitional?
Sorry.
Isn't it the volitional? Instead
Oh,
of
plain
sorry.
volitional.
Sorry. Yes, you're right. Sorry. Plain.
But the Marshall was too easy, so I took the difficult one.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
But was it correct? Daso.
That's all. Yes, correct.
So, okay, then we have the potential. Dasevu.
Good.
Experience. Dashita koto ga arimasu.
Yep. Yep.
An obligative. Dasanakereba narimasen.
Good.
Dasareru.
Dasareru. Good. Yep.
And dasaseru.
Very good. Yes, dasaseru. Excellent. I'm trying to quickly look up a word, guys. Give me a second. Okay. Joel, to be surprised. There's a group 1 verb for this.
I have no idea what this is.
Okay, this is odoroku. Odoroku.
Odoroku.
Odoroku. Yeah, to
Okay.
be surprised or to be astonished.
Odoroku. Odoroite.
Yep.
Odorokimasu.
Yep.
Odoroko.
Good.
Even though it doesn't make a lot of sense. But okay.
Yes, let's be surprised.
Let's be surprised, yes. Odorokeru.
Okay.
Odoroita koto ga arimasu.
Very good. Yep.
Odorokanakereba narimasen.
Good.
Odorokareru.
Yep.
Odorokaseru.
Yes, good. Excellent. Good. Simon, to cue, to line up. Do you remember this one? We did it in state continuation months ago.
No, it doesn't ring a bell.
Okay, this is narabu. Narabu.
Narabu.
Oops, not narabi, narabu.
Hi, narabu. So that's gonna be narande.
Good.
The form narabimasu.
Yep.
Narabo.
Good.
Narabemasu. Naranda koto ga arimasu.
Good.
Obligative. Narabanakereba narimasen.
Excellent.
Narabareru.
Good.
And narabaseru.
Very good. Excellent. David, how about here we go. You can blame Joel for this.
Is the tachiagaru?
Very good. Yeah, tachiagaru.
Okay. So tachiagaru, tachiagarite.
So agaru is a group 1 verb, actually.
I thought that was it.
So if it's got ru at the end, think of our base group 1 verb finishing with ru.
Oh.
It's kaeru. So to turn this into the te form, we would say
Kaete.
kaete. Yeah. So tachiagaru would be
Tachiagaete.
not tachiagaite, just tachi. Think of it. Ka e ru becomes ka e te. Double T-E. Ka e te. So tachiagaru would be
Agate.
agate. Exactly. Yeah.
Sorry, my mind my mind completely derped there. Did you say group 1 or group 2?
Oh, these are all group 1 at the moment.
Or group 1?
Yeah.
So isn't it group 2 where the ru drops off completely?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Tachiagate, tachiagarimasu.
Good.
Volitional. Tachiagarimashou.
Good. But I think Tom was looking at the
Plain
plain
volitional.
form of this. Yeah.
Tachiagaro.
Yes. Good. Tachiagaro.
Tachiagaremasu.
Very good. Yes.
Tachiagarakoto.
And that, so go to the te form first. Make the te form.
Tachiagata.
Very good. Yes.
Koto ga arimasu.
Yes. Good.
Tachiagara nakereba narimasen.
Yep. Sorry, can you say it one more time?
Tachiagara nakereba narimasen.
Yes. Good. That's it.
Tachiagareru.
Very good. Sorry, David. One more time.
No. Tachiagarareru.
That's it. Yes. Good. Good. Good.
Tachiagaraseru.
Very good. Excellent. Well done. And Sophie, how about let's see, one that we didn't do this morning, shall we? Oh, let's do this one. So again, this is a compound verb, and I've already mentioned the word already.
Pull out.
So it literally means the drawer on your desk, but you can use it to mean to pull something out.
Draw out. What? Hiki, what?
Oh, good. Okay. So,
Hiki,
yep. Good. Hiki. And then to take out is dasu. So it's hiki dasu.
Hikidasu.
Yeah.
Hikidasu. Hiki. Hikidasu. So it's like the one that we did earlier, dasu, no. To take out. Oh, yes, we did that one, hikidasu. So it's the similar, hikidasu. So, and we want hikidasimasu.
That's the polite. What's the te form?
Okay. Te form hikidate.
Not that. This ends with su. So it's
Hikidashite.
hikidashite. Yes.
Okay. We want now the polite hikidasimasu.
Good. Yeah.
Volitional hikidaso.
Good. Yes. Hikidaso.
Potential. It's the potential. Reru. No.
No. Think of I can go would be
Hikidaseru.
hikidaseru. Good. Yeah.
Hikidaseru, potential experience. Hikidashita kotogarimasu.
Very good. Yes.
Experience, obligative. Hikidanai. Danakereba narimasen.
You dropped a syllable. Remember, it's hikidasu. The su has to change into something. It can't be just disappeared.
Hikidasu. Hikidase narimasen.
That's the incorrect version of obligative. What are we on? Sorry, are we on obligative at the moment? I've lost where we are. We're on obligative. Okay, so that was nearly it. That was nearly it, but not hikidase. We have to make the plain negative first for this one.
hikidanai.
No. The su has to change into something.
The su obligative.
Okay, let me help. How do you turn iku into the plain negative? What's iku in plain negative?
Ikanai.
Ikanai. So you've turned the final u into an a. So
So
obligative.
hikidasa.
Good.
Okay, what? I forgot the rest.
Ikidasa, and then nakareba narimasen.
Hikidasa nakereba narimasen.
Very good. Okay.
Okay.
And then passive.
Passive, it's the hikidareru.
Now again, make the plain for obligative, passive, and causative. Make the plain negatives stem first.
Hikidasanai, we said.
Yes.
Hikidasa reru
Good.
and hikidasa seru.
Very good.
Okay.
Yes. Exactly. Yes. Good. Well
Oh
done.
my goodness, syllable by syllable, but it's done. Okay.
That's okay. We learn syllable by syllable. I'd rather you thought in syllables rather than trying to remember whole clumps of words. You know, we can assemble syllables together to make the right verb, but you can't remember every single combination of every single word.
True.
Better to learn the rules rather than learn the actual words. Okay, right, let's move on to today. So guys, on Tuesday evening, we did all of Andre's pronunciation class. We didn't go into a new section. So tonight, I'd also like to not go into a new section and basically revise the last 2 weeks of stuff, because it was actually quite complex. It was the this thing here, wasn't it? The nominalizing of a verb. So I'd like to go over that, if that's okay. I take it we haven't all mastered this in the last 2 weeks, have we? Good. Okay. Right. So let's see where we are now. So in our normal Japanese speech, we often put the noun as the object before a verb. For example, I eat sushi, sushi o tabemasu. But we can also put a verb before a noun to modify this noun. So we did that 3 weeks ago. This was verb modifiers. Like, this is the sushi that I will eat. Kore wa taberu sushi desu. So this is verbs modifying nouns. And we can also turn verbs into nouns as well. And we will do this a lot. And then we will use that subclause and then add it to another part of a sentence with a verb or a state in it. And this is called nominalization, not nominalizing. And the two tools we use to nominalize are no and koto. Now, this whole nominalizing a verb is a massive area of Japanese. It occurs all over the place. And we've already done some nominalization in our lessons, both the formal lessons during the week and also in the Go sessions on Sundays. So we'll just look at the first part of 900 sections on nominalization. So this basically turns a verb into an object or a subject within a sentence. And we've already done some of these using koto. For example, namasakana o taberu koto ga dekimasu. So this was the potential form, the really basic potential form of a verb. And it's not really used that much, which is why we didn't spend much time on it. Most people turn the verb into the potential form, as we've just been doing. But if you say it this way, it's perfectly understandable. And it means namasakana o taberu koto, the eating of raw fish, I can do. I can do. Ga dekimasu, I can do. What we normally say would be namasakana ga taberaremasu, which means I can eat raw fish. But this is just a way of saying I can do the eating of raw fish. And we've also got this other form of nominalization. Hawaii ni itta koto ga arimasu ka? Have you ever been to Hawaii? So just breaking this down to its real meaning, Hawaii ni itta koto, the going to Hawaii. Arimasu ka? Have you got it? Have you got the going to Hawaii, or the wenting of Hawaii? This is in the past tense, remember. Okay, so far, guys. I can see Sophie shuffling her papers. I'm not sure if this is a good sign or a bad sign. Is this a good sign? Okay. If we when we use two nouns in a sentence, then we also use koto to normalize the verb. I don't know what this is. Oh yes, right. Okay. So our first new application of nominalization is to make two nouns in a sentence, to say A is B. And both of these are nouns, both of them are objects. So for example, my hobby, this is a noun, is climbing mountains. This is also a noun. Climbing mountains is a noun. Okay, it's a nominalized verb into a noun. So I can do this by watashi no shumi wa, my hobby, yama o noboru koto desu. So if we have these two nouns in a sentence and we equalize them, then we should use koto. So this verb here, climbing mountains, gets turned into a noun by making yama o noboru koto desu. My hobby wa mountains of climbing koto desu, doing of climbing mountains. Or my dream is to become a pilot. Monica, how would you say, sorry, Monya, not Monica. Monya, how would you say my dream is to become a pilot?
I don't remember the word for dream.
Yume.
Watashi no ime. Pairo naru koto desu.
Yeah. Watashi no yume wa pairoto ni naru koto desu. Yeah, good. Watashi no yume wa pairoto ni naru koto desu. Okay, that's the first half of that lesson done. Any questions so far, guys? We'll do some more exercises on this shortly. Let's move on. And then the new use of using no as a nominalizer. If we want to describe a verb, the climbing of a mountain, for example, then we put this into the plain form. We put no, and then we use an adjective against it. Now, to be honest, let's see if I've got it. Oh, here we go. We can use koto instead of no in this place. But if we use koto, this is much more like written Japanese, and it sounds very formal. So for spoken Japanese, for conversation, we should use no. It's not a mistake to use koto, but no is better. So, for example,
How about the other way around? When you write, can you use no as well?
I think it comes across sounding a little bit more like spoken Japanese if you do it in written. So it's probably better to use koto when you write it.
Okay.
Yeah. So, for example, if I want to say I think soccer is interesting, I would say soccer wa omoshiroi desu. But maybe I want to say that I find playing soccer interesting. In this case, I would say soccer o suru no wa omoshiroi desu. Like I said, I can put koto in place here. Soccer o suru koto wa omoshiroi desu. But in conversation, it's better to use no. So here's the verb soccer o suru no wa omoshiroi desu. Or maybe I think watching football is more interesting than playing it. So soccer o miru no wa omoshiroi desu. Okay, so if we've got an adjective here to describe the doing of the verb, then we will use no. Now, whether to use wa or ga to mark this nominalized verb depends on the adjective you put after it. So if the adjectives are any of these, then we use wa, and if they're any of these, then we use ga. Has anybody not written this down before? Everybody has this already down on paper. Yeah, okay, good. So I don't have to wait for you to write it down. Good. So you might remember then that although this is not necessarily a consistent rule, but it's just an observation of these adjectives, that if the thing you're describing is a subjective experience, it's enjoyable, it's interesting or funny, or it's difficult, or it's easy, or it's shameful, feels good, or it's difficult, or it's simple, this is a kind of subjective experience, then we use wa. But if it's an objective observation, bearing in mind that suki, to like, and kirai do not mean I like, it means the thing is likable. Kirai means the thing is hateable. Jozu, which means skillful, this means the thing is the skill is skillful, or heta means it is clumsy. Hayai means fast, or soi means slow. So these are all objective observations of the object. So in this case, we would use ga. So the objective of that lesson 2 weeks ago was just to make sure we don't mix these up. If we've got noun and a noun, we use koto. If we've got verb, nominalized verb, and adjective, we'll use no. Just to summarize, noun, hobby, job, objective, what, and then we use koto as the verb. Or if we want to describe this nominalized verb, then use wa or ga, and then put the adjective in place. Any questions, guys? Good. Let's do some exercises. And I think we'll start from the bottom and work up so that we might get to do some new ones. Okay, let me start with Tom. Marianne is not very skilled at using scissors.
This was Hasami.
Hasami, good, yeah.
But it's not very skilled. So I first have to make the sentences in my head to know. It's not very skilled. So, Marianne-san wa using Hasami o tsukau no. I will go for ga. Amari. Skillful is Johan.
Jozu.
Jozu was, yeah. Then Jozu. Yes.
Not.
Dewa arimasen.
Very good, yes. Dewa arimasen. Excellent, well done. Simon, Martin is very good at playing guitar.
Martin-san wa guitar or yeah, what the verb for playing the instrument? I forgot that one.
Who can help?
Hiku.
Hiku. Good.
Aha, right.
Pluck.
Yeah, pluck.
Yeah,
Exactly.
right. Yeah, guitar or hiku no jozu desu.
What's the particle here? No.
Hiku no ga jozu
yeah.
desu.
Yes, yeah. Good. Jozu desu. Not just good, but very good, Simon. So.
Tottemo jozu desu.
Tottemo jozu desu. Very good. Cool. Joa, I hate cleaning my room. Oh, you muted, Joa.
私の部屋を掃除するのが嫌いです。
Very good. Yes.
暗いは嫌い。
Oh, sorry, Kirai. Sorry.
Okay.
It's also a bit dark as well, but Kirai.
Yes.
Good. David, walking in good weather in the mountains feels so good.
Oh dear. Mountains. Yamade.
Good.
I tenki ni.
I tenki ni. Good.
It's a suru verb, is it? It's sampo suru.
Yeah, good. Sampo suru.
Sampo suru no wa kimochi desu.
Very good. Kimochi ii desu. Very good.
Kimochi ii.
Yeah. I mean, it's actually what you said was fine. Because this is a kind of ridiculously long vowel. Vowel, yeah. You don't actually have to say kimochi. You can just say kimochi. It's if you just continue the e sound for a duration, it's understood what you mean. Yeah. Kimochi desu. Okay. Sophie. Assembling furniture feels good in a new house.
新しい new house
新しい
家で
家で
家具の
家具の
組み立てるのは
So I'd suggest, although no isn't really a mistake, but I would suggest kagu o kumitateru.
家具を組み立てるのは
Good.
気持ちいいです
Yes, good. Well done. Good. Munya. Making Thai food with friends is extremely enjoyable. This doesn't mean making Thai food out of friends, by the way. You know, cutting one of your friends up and making a green curry. Yeah.
OK。友達と、タイ料理、するのは、とても楽しいです。
Good, yeah, good. Well done. Okay, this doesn't seem to be problematic to you guys, so are you happy if we move on? Yeah, okay, we can come back and do some more exercises on this later if you want to, but I'd like to try and get on to lesson 2 before Monya has to go. Okay, so this week's, or I should say last week's new thing was, where is it? There we go. So part 2 of nominalization. So far we've used nominalization to describe an experience, itta koto ga arimasu, express an ability, sushi o taberu koto ga dekimasu, equated a nominalized verb to a noun. For example, watashi no shumi wa yama o noboru koto desu, and described a nominalized verb with an adjective, kagu o kumitateru no ga kirai desu. So that's all fairly easy so far. And we've memorized how to use wa and when to use ga. Subjective experiences are wa, and objective observations are ga. Next application, to use no to express perception of something happening. For example, I saw the child throw a stone. I saw the child throw a stone. So if we look at this sentence, with me, red little pointy on, this contains 2 verbs, so throw and saw. 2 subjects, me and the child, and 2 object markers, a stone and the child. So we've got to make sure that we assemble this in such a way that it makes sense. And we don't end up saying, I threw a child who was looking at a stone, for example. This would be the wrong way of translating this. Or I threw a stone at a child who was looking at me. So the first thing to do is really to make a subclause to talk about the experience that you had. So for example, the child throwing a stone is the thing that you saw. So you know that this is going to be the main clause, the I saw, and the child throwing a stone. You can put this in a box and say, that's what I saw, the child throwing the stone. So to construct this into Japanese, we make the phenomena into the plain present or the present continuous tense. And then no, ga, or o, perception verb. Okay, so if you haven't seen this before, I recommend writing down this construction. This is the important part of the lesson. You finished writing, Simon? You're not writing everything down, are you? Okay, right. So for this case, we would say kodomo ga ishi o nageru. So this is our subclause here. The child throws a stone. You can see this is in the present tense. Kodomo ga ishi o nageru. And then I mark this with no ga miemashita. I'll explain why this is ga and not wa, or not o here in a second.
Was it miemashita, not mimashita?
Actually, miemashita is probably fine. Actually, I think mieru and miru are can kind of be interchanged, really. So, I mean, if you wanted to say like I spotted the child throwing a stone, like you caught him, then miemashita. Yeah, I'm not really sure about this one. We had the same conversation on the last time we looked at this. So perception verbs include miru, mieru, kiku, kikoeru, and kanjiru. Kanjiru means to feel. Now, of these, two of them are what's called state verbs. So these are ones which are basically in their potential form. This is mieru and kikoeru. If it's a state verb, mieru or kikoeru, then use ga. If it's any other perception, like miru, kiku, or kanjiru, then use o in this place. There probably are some other state verbs, but I don't know what they are because that takes us into really complex definitions of different verb groups, which isn't that really important to us at the moment. Oops. That's it. Any questions, guys? We've got exercises to do, of course.
Andy, sorry.
Yeah. Dozo.
How I decided if I have to use plain present or present continuous?
Good question. So this really, if you look at the English sentence, this will help. So it doesn't really help if you're not actually thinking in English. But if the thing that you see is somebody doing something like eating or walking, then te iru is probably better to use the present continuous. But otherwise, the default is plain present tense. So even though this thing happened in the past, we don't put this into the past tense. This can either say that you saw somebody do it and you saw it in its completion, whether it was instantaneous or it took a long time, or if it's something that was ongoing, like walking, you saw somebody walking. So before you saw them, they were probably walking. Then you looked at them, you saw them walking, then you looked away and they were still walking. Then that's probably better to use the present continuous tense. But often these are kind of interchangeable, really. As we do the exercises, it might be a bit easier to kind of distinguish between the two. Tom, go ahead.
Is it here also the same when we have a habit? Like if you would say, I saw the child throwing a stone every day, then you would choose the present continuous or not? Like with the previous.
Mainichi, kodomo ga mainichi ishi o nageru. I would use for an everyday habit, I would use plain present.
Plain present.
Yeah. If you use present continuous, it sounds like they're continually like picking up a stone, throwing it, pick up a stone, throwing it. So yeah, it's got this present continuous needs to describe something that is kind of ongoing, really, rather than something that's done cyclically, something that's done habitually. Yeah. Okay, let's try some exercises, shall we? Oh, I'm sorry, you don't want to see that. So I'm going to put it onto the screen. Just a second, guys. Okay, let's do this one. Let's just have a guess at this one, a kind of stab at it, and then if we can make it better, we can talk about it afterwards. So, Monia, how about this one? I heard my friends talking yesterday.
Tomodachi ga anasu no ga kikimashita.
Okay, so if it's kikimashita,
Aho no o
not
kikimashita.
or. Yes, exactly. Yeah, good. Kikimashita. So, go ahead.
There's one thing I didn't understand. At least it seems that I didn't understand it from your explanation. You replace ga with ho. You don't replace no ga with ho. So it's Tomodachi ga hanasu no o kikimashita and not Tomodachi ga hanasu o kikimashita. What are the two options?
Sorry, that's what you mean. It's either ga or here.
Oh, okay. But what you replace is the no remains. Is that it? The no particle remains. What you replace is that either o or ga.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So the no remains. So you can't use the only choice for the nominalization would be koto or no. So in this case, you have to use no.
Okay.
Yeah, for perception. So I heard my friends. So this is I heard, Monia. So I think this should be kikoeru. Kikoeru. If you said kikimashita, it means you listened to your friends talking, which just means something slightly different to I hear. So I hear is kind of much more passive, almost accidental, whereas I listen is something much more intentional and proactive. So this would be kikoemashita, I think.
No ga kikoemashita.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Hanasu or hanashite iru? Does it matter? The difference would be if you said hanasu no ga, which means I heard my friends talk. Oops. Talk yesterday. Talk yesterday. And if you did hanashiteru is I heard my friends talking yesterday. Is there much difference there? Do you think?
I think
Not really. No, it's kind of the same thing, really. Yeah. So go ahead.
Can we imply if we use hanasu that you just heard them talking and you couldn't even understand what they were saying, and if you use the present continuous that you stood and listened to what they were saying? Could it be
in the hanasu part?
No, if you use the hanasu, you could just I heard them talk, and you didn't even understand what they were saying. But if you said hanashite iru, can it be implied that you were there the whole time listening to what they were saying?
I don't think it necessarily implies it, whether
Okay.
you just kind of heard a snapshot or whether you actually heard the whole conversation. I'm not sure that is going to be implied by your choice of hanasu or hanashiteiru. Yeah.
Right.
I think that there'll be some of these examples where it will be a lot clearer that you should use hanashiteiru. Maybe it will pop out as we do it. Let's see. So Tom, I saw the man steal my wallet in the library. One time?
Toshokan?
Toshokan, yeah. Toshokan. Yeah, Toshokan. Good.
Watashi no saifu.
I think you're heading towards a passive sentence, but I don't want you to do that.
I know I will end with so mimashita. Maybe again. So, yeah, for the subclass, mimashita. So the man otoko no hito.
Yeah, otoko is fine. Otoko
ga. To steal was nusumu.
Good.
So why would I go to a passive sense? So the verb will be nusumu, and my wallet is saifu o.
Yep. So it's your wallet. So yep, good.
Watashi no saifu o.
O.
Nusumu.
Nusumu.
And then I have to choose with the no o mimashita.
No o mimashita. Okay, so here, do you think this should be nusumu or nusundeiru?
I would have gone for nusumu because I had steal and not stealing. It was a short action, and I don't think I really clearly saw it.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, even if you did see it, to say that he stole it, it wasn't like he was stealing it and stealing it and stealing it. It was a one-off occurrence.
Yeah.
So nusumu would be better here, I think. Yeah. Okay. I can hear Joel. I can hear Effie playing the piano.
Effie Sanga. Piano o is it hiku?
It's also hiku. Yeah.
Piano ho hiteiru.
Okay.
No ga.
Good.
Kikoemasu.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, this is how I would do it as well, I think. To say I can hear her playing it. So this will be better. Good. Simon, when I was younger, I watched my car fixing the father. I watched my father fixing the car.
Yes. I somehow can't remember how you say it when I was younger.
Okay.
Younger.
So you might be led to think that wakai toki would be right. And if you said this would be understood, but it's kind of a bit weird because it suggests that you're not young now. So what most Japanese people say is chisai toki.
Aha, okay, so
yeah,
I just say small in that sense.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, chisai toki.
So I'm just going to let Joseph in, sorry. Okay, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, 小さい時、お父さんが車を直すのが No, actually, watching is pretty active. So
active, isn't it?
no
Yeah.
o.
Yep.
見ました.
Very good. Yes, mimashita. Hey, Joseph, have you been jabbed already?
Yes, I'm going new office.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, 小さい時お父さんが車を直すのを見ました。Good. Yeah. So in this case, 直す or 直している? Does it make much difference?
I guess you could use both.
Yeah.
It's a bit of an ongoing process, but
Yeah. If it was a bad car, if it was a Trabant, maybe he was fixing it continuously. So that would be better. Good. David. Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
Would it be so if I watch my father one time fixing the car, it would be better to use now too? And when my father, for example, he worked on the car every weekend as a hobby, then we better with the present continuous?
I would think this is a good way of dividing it. Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Or if he was continually fixing the car, then Nelstede would be better probably. Yeah. I can David, I can feel the ground shaking.
This is going to sound weird. What's the ground?
Jimen.
Jimen. Jimen. Or
Not or. Jimen's the thing. So make a subclause first. The
sorry.
ground is shaking.
Jimen ga
Yes.
shaking.
This is. Can anybody help before I say it?
Yureru.
Yureru. Good. Yes.
Jimen ga yurete iru.
Good.
No. Ga.
So kanjiru is actually a non-stative verb, actually, even though it's also a kind of perception. It's a non-stative one, so it's off.
No. Oh.
Yep.
And it's active. Does it have to be kanjitemas?
Kanjimas is fine. Kanjimas means I'm feeling it. Yeah.
Okay.
Kanjimas. Good. Cool. Good. Sophie, I can see Kim driving his car. It looks dangerous.
Kim Sanga.
Yep.
I was thinking, if we use the untensuru, do we have to use the kuruma, also the car?
I mean,
I was thinking about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's added information. It really. I'm not. If you know how to say kuruma or untensuru, then I'm not worried if you put it in or not really.
Yeah. Kuruma or untens. It's his driving. Kuruma untensiteiru.
Good.
Where I saw him. No ga. Miemas.
Very good. And then it looks very dangerous.
Abunai, abuin. No, abunas.
Abunayo.
Abunayo. Okay. Abunayo.
Oh no, sorry, that was me just emphasizing that you should use abunai, not kicken. Yeah. Abunas.
Oh, it's there. Okay. Abunasaso.
Very good.
Yes.
Very good. Excellent. Well done. So just in case you didn't quite get this is going from abunai into the sordes form. Now, most of the time, for example, if I say it looks hot, I would go from atsui to atsu sordes. But for some adjectives like good, and abunai, dangerous, we have to turn these into the sordes. They appear to be using sasordes, not just sordes. So abunai becomes yoi, yosasordes. Sorry, good becomes yosasordes from yoi, and abunai becomes abunasasordes.
Melody,
Sorry?
Would you use, because I know they love to use my car. Is my car applies to if somebody else is my car, or it's only my
Yes.
car?
No. It also means somebody else's car, but I hate using this because in English it means my car, right? So why would you say David nor my car? This is just ridiculous. I'm hoping that by refusing to use it, it's going to contribute to the cessation of its use. It's a ridiculous Japanization of a word. Andy nor my car wa nan desu ka?
Yeah.
Concerning that, Andy, I am listening concerning the Kuruma and the my car. I'm listening to a podcast, and they always use jidosha for car. Is that used a lot, or?
Yeah, jidosha means vehicle, really.
It's more vehicle.
Yeah. So it's much more general term. Yeah.
Does jidosha mean like car, van, truck, everything? And my car is specific to car.
Yeah, I mean, so Sophie, you remember this morning we did jidoshi. So jido means self-moving, self-actuating, and then the sha means vehicle. So it means a powered vehicle, which is different to Joel. What would be the opposite of this? Jitensha means bicycle, which means that you have to self-turn it. Self-turn vehicle. Yeah.
But jidosha is actually literally automobile.
Exactly. It is exactly this.
Self-moving.
Yeah. Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
I think it's the same kanji always. The kuruma and the jitensha.
Jidosha and jidoshi. Yeah, they are.
I think they have the same kanji.
They do. Yeah. Jidoshi and jidoshi. Yeah. Sorry, Joel, go ahead.
On this example, if we wanted you to say, I can see him driving his car. Instead of kare no kuruma, could you use jibun no kuruma?
His own car, yes, you could.
His own car, okay.
Yeah. So jibun doesn't have to apply just to you. It means oneself. So if you said Andy no jibun no kuruma wa nan desu ka, means what is your own car, rather than Andy no kaisha no kuruma wa nan desu ka, rather than saying what's Andy's company car. In my case, the answer for both of them is bicycle. Cool. Joseph, do you want to have a try? Or are you busy being careful?
No, I'm in the metro. Not a good idea.
Okay, good.
Later.
Yeah,
Give me a few minutes.
Sure. Monia, you okay to do another one? Do you have time?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. How about this one? I listen to my brother singing, but I cannot sing very well myself.
Okay. Sing is
Utao.
utao. Okay. Oh, I don't remember even brother.
So if it's older brother, sorry, let's just go through this second. So your own older brother, guys, what's the answer?
Moto?
Anisan.
So okay, so it depends if you're talking to somebody else or talking to your brother. So this gets more and more complex. So if it's your older brother, it's Annie. Yeah.
Annie.
If it's your own younger brother and you're talking about him to somebody else, this is
Toto.
Ototo. Yeah, exactly. Ototo. If it's someone else's older brother, this is anybody?
Onisan.
Onisan. Yeah. And if it's someone else's younger brother, this is it's actually easier than you think. It's Ototo-san. Ani? No, sorry, hang on. No, that's not right. It's I think it's oh God. Let's just look for brother and see what it says. I think it might be on. It's Oni, Ani, Oni, Ani. God, I don't know. Hang on. Ani, Ototo, Te. Ni-san, Ani-san.
This is one example where you should intonate correctly, because if you say Oni-san, if you say Oni-san rather than Oni-san, you can say it's the demon.
Yeah.
It's your demon or something
Mr.
like
Demon. Oh, for some people it is.
You may be right.
Yeah. Okay, let's just give you the answer to this, Monia, and we'll come back to this because this is horribly complex depending on if you're talking to your brother about him, then it has a different word. So this to my brother, this is going to be ototo.
Okay. Watashi no ototo.
If you say ototo, actually, you don't say watashi no.
Okay.
It's in the meaning. It's in the word itself. Yeah.
Ototo ga utatte iru kikimashita ga.
You're missing the most important part of the lesson: the nominalization and the particle. No, and then.
O.
Good.
Kikimashita.
Good. Yes.
Ga.
Yes.
Utaeru. No.
So for myself, so Joel actually said this just now. Do you want to say? Yes, good.
Jibun, very well. Jibun,
Go ahead.
Yoku. Okay.
Okay. I'm going to make some spaces. I'll explain later, but Yoku is okay.
Okay. Utaerimasen.
Oh, okay. Utaemasen. Utaemasen. Yeah. Okay. So jibun. You can, if you're talking about yourself, this should be this point here, as we're comparing yourself to your brother. This should be jibun wa. And then if this is going to be a negative here, to say I can't sing very well, then this should be amari yoku utaemasen. Yeah.
Okay.
Good. Let me make a quick note actually that we have to do relatives at some point. Let me just write this into the schedule. I don't actually have a schedule. I'll try and remember later on. We'll do relatives on another class. Okay. Tom, I think I can hear Wayne eating sushi in the kitchen.
Daidokoro ni.
I think this is going to be something that's happening. Sorry. No, you're right. Yeah, sorry. You're right. Yeah, daidokoro ni.
Wayne-san ga.
Yeah.
Maybe it was better to start with that. Sushi o tabete iru. And then no. O. Why think it's not a stage verb?
I think I can hear.
I dropped into the trap. So then it will be no ga.
Good.
To be able to hear was kikoe, but I need to put it in the it's already kikoemas.
I think he's going to go with this. So remember, this is now going to become its own little subclause.
Yeah, I would go for kikoeru.
Yep.
So omaimasu.
Very good.
It's good.
Yeah, it's good. Very good. Excellent. Okay. Joel, I can see my sister tidying her room.
Imoto ga jibun no heya o soji shiteiru.
So soji is cleaning. Can anybody remember the word for tidying? We learned this.
It was katazekeru.
Really close. Yeah, katazukeru.
Katazekeru.
Yeah, good.
Okay, so katazukete iru
Kete iru
no ga
no ga
miemasu.
mimasu. Very good. Excellent. So it's actually getting quite easy to sort of see where we need to have present continuous, where we need to decide between see and look.
In fact, I think what you said before about the particle before the potential being ga applies perfectly here, because every time we have a potential verb, then we just need to resort to the previous rule. It's
Exactly.
always ga.
Yeah. Yes.
So we can never mix it with o.
Exactly this. Yeah. And also, if you were to say, if you turn this into no o mimashita, means I'm watching my sister, or I watch my sister tidying her room. It sounds a bit weird.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Simon, I can hear a strange voice. Maybe it's Andy.
So I would say it doesn't really serve the purpose of this exercise, but I would say hen no koe o kikoeru
Hen no koe
o
ga
kikoeru.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Hen na koe ga kikoeru. I don't know how to say maybe.
So you can use tabun or tashikani.
Tabun andi desu. Andi-san desu.
Yeah, good. Yeah, you're right. This doesn't really serve the purpose of this lesson. I just wanted to make sure that people knew this. Okay.
Is it koa or koe?
Sorry, it's koe. Sorry, thank you. Guys, any questions about this? It's fairly easy, isn't it? Once you get used to getting into the swing of it.
I've got a question specifically about this. I always get confused with jibun because sometimes it means me, sometimes it means someone else.
Yeah. So jibun basically means oneself. If you just use it apropos of anything else without kind of making reference to somebody else, then it means me. Because if you don't mention a different subject, then it's assumed you're talking about yourself. But if you want to say, what about yourself? Then if you make it clear, you then turn the focus onto the person. You can use jibun to mean your own.
So it's entirely reliant on implication.
Yeah, I mean, basically, you need to know within the sentence who the topic is of the conversation. And then you can say jibun to mean oneself.
Okay, thank you.
For example, if you wanted to say, did you go to the cinema by yourself? You can say either eigakan ni hitori de, one person, ikimashita ka. Eigakan ni hitori de ikimashita ka. But if you want to say, did you go by yourself, instead of did you go alone, then you can say eigakan ni jibun de ikimashita ka. Then, providing you're looking at the person when you say this, so they know that you're talking to them, then they know that you're asking them if they went by themselves. Jibun de.
Yep.
That's all.
Actually, this question by David, I think it's interesting because I was trying to apply it into that example. I can see my sister tying a room. And I was wondering if I did it right, because I said, imoto ga jibun no eya o katazukete. Doesn't this mean that my sister is seeing me, can see me tidying my room? Shouldn't it be imoto wa or something like that?
Right, no, so actually what we have to be careful of is that in this sentence there is a unspoken watashi wa at the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah, so after this point here, this now is encapsulating the rest of it to say that you did it.
Okay.
But this needs to be clear from the sentence. So
so in this case, jibun refers to the sister, not to myself.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Imoto no jibun no, to be honest, imoto no jibun no heya o katazukuteru no ga it does. The more detail you want to specify in the sentence, the more words you're going to have to include. So really, you know, if you wanted to be sure that everybody understood what you meant, you have to say imoto ga imoto no jibun no heya o katazukuteru no ga miemasu. But you have to assume that in most situations that people know what you're talking about. Yeah. For example, if I said in this in the English sentence, this is lucky. For example, if I said tidying the room instead of her room, you know, her is really convenient because it immediately makes a possessive from a female. And it's assumed that if you've got your sister in there, you're talking about her. Yeah. But for example, her room, well, unless it's clear, this could be talking about my mother's room. It's not clear, but you assumed correctly, I would say, that you were talking about your sister's room, because I put her in there and there's no other woman in the sentence, so I guess it means the sister's room. Yeah.
There's actually a way in Swedish to differentiate the two.
Really?
Yeah, they have possessive pronouns that are directive in a way. So if it's the subject's own, it's different than if the subject does it to somebody else's. Oops.
Ah, okay.
Exactly this example. So tidying her
Right.
room, her own, it's a different possessive pronoun than if she's tidying the mother's room.
Right. So, for example, in this, in English, for example, to make it clear, as you just said, was her own room. So, do you actually have a different her? You have a different.
Yes.
Ah,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
Right.
The Swedish is the only language I know that has that.
Right. Right. Yeah, you should ask a Polish person, because they almost certainly they probably changed the word room and decline it into the possessed room.
Maybe that's why I don't know Polish.
Monia, go ahead.
Yeah, I have to go.
Okay, thanks a lot. Have a
Okay.
nice weekend.
Thank
Ciao,
you so
ciao.
much.
Bye bye. Yes, yeah. So to pin down details, you'll have to add more words. So let's assume for the time being that it's clear from this. Yeah. Okay. Guys, we finished so early. We can either go on to next week's lesson as a kind of, which is also basically revision, or we can do more of this, or we can have an open session. You can ask about things you're not sure of. I leave it up to you guys. First to the buzzer. Go
There's
ahead.
something that I would like to go back to.
Sure.
Which I'm not too comfortable with, which is comparison.
Ah, cool. Okay. Yeah, let's do it, because we actually nearly jumped onto this morning. Yeah. Just a second. How do I stop that? Okay. This is next week's lesson, by the way. Nai, the equal twin of te. There we go. Oh, this is next week's lesson for the Asahi class. Let's have a look. Not sure what those yellow squares are doing there. So we can start with a basic shape to compare two things. Let's go with A is bigger than B. So everybody knows that this is Hodor and this is Tyrion, right? I don't need to explain that part, I hope. Hodor wa Tyrion yori ookii desu. So it's really easy. We can just mark Hodor as being the topic and say, as for him, he is bigger than Tyrion. So yori in this case means more than in the affirmative sense. We can also use yori to mean from. So who is this present from? You can say kono presento wa Andy yori desu. It's from Andy. Or you can use kara for from. But yori means both than as a pivot and from. So to give emphasis to the greater item, you can mark it with nohoga. And there are shortcuts in the sentence, which I'll explain in a second, which would say why you should use nohoga instead of wa. But so in this case, it would be hodo nohoga Tyrion yori ookii desu. Now this only means at the moment that he's bigger than Tyrion. Okay, because I've said Tyrion Yori. I've mentioned him in the sentence. In this case, ho. This is the same ho to mean direction, and it can be read as kata as well. Actually, we don't have to use adjectives at the end. Verbs can also be used. Oh, okay, right. So this. Let's do an example of this first. For example, Hodor does Iaido more than Tyrion, then you don't even have to use the word more in this sentence. You can just say Hodor no hoga Tyrion yori Iaido no keiko o shimasu. I can just say to do Iaido, to practice Iaido, and put it at the end, and the structure of this sentence already makes it clear that Hodor does it more than Tyrion. Yeah. It means basically Hodor practices more than Tyrion. Just let Annika in. Guten Abend, Annika. We're just having we've actually finished today's new practice, but it was only last week's session anyway. So it's only doing the nominalization. And on request, I'm going back and looking at comparators. We've done this before, believe it or not. Do you remember this? You're looking worried. Okay, we've only got like 2 minutes into it just to say, to compare two things. For example, Hodor is bigger than Tyrion. Hodor wa Tyrion yori okides. This is one way of saying it. Or we can give greater emphasis to Hodor to say Hodor no hoga Tyrion yori okides. And there's a reason why we have an option to say no hoga o wa, which I shall come to in just a second. And we don't need to necessarily have an adjective here. We can simply put a verb in there as well. So if I wanted to say Hodor studies French more than Tyrion, I don't have to put more in there. I can just say Hodor no hoga or Hodor wa Tyrion yori Fransuko no benkyo o shimasu. This already says that Hodor does this studying of French more than Tyrion by having the sentence structure. Any questions, guys, so far? Cool. But how about looking from the other direction? What about if you want to say Tyrion is not as big as Hodor? I don't want to say Tyrion is smaller than Hodor. I just want to say he's not as big as Hodor. In this case, the sentence structure is Tyrion wa Hodor hodo okikunai desu. So this Hodor is used instead of yori for negative adjectives or negative verbs. Both are fine. But if you want to say not as much as, then we use Hodor. It gets confusing when you've got Hodor and Hodor, and it gets entertaining if there's anybody Spanish who's in the class. Note that the emphasis is on the lesser in this case, on the Tyrion, and the adjective becomes a negative. I think we'll come to this in a second, actually. I'll just quickly go through this because this is quite a long time. Oh, okay, let's go for this first, and then I'll talk about this nohoga and wa, and why we use one or the other. Yasai o tabata nohoga ii desu. It is best to eat vegetables. So if we put this verb into the plain negative form, and then put hoga after it, and then you can put an adjective, ii desu. It is best to eat vegetables, or it is most good to eat vegetables. Tora o sawarana. Okay. And now, if we want to say it's better to not do something, we put this verb into the plain negative form. Tora o sawaranai hoga ii desu. It is best not to touch tigers. Now, just let me refresh this slightly. This one here, when we're talking about the positive, it is best to do this. This can be in taberu, into the plain present form. But it sounds a bit more like a threat. It's a much, much stronger kind of advice if you put this in the plain present form. If you put it in the plain past form, it sounds like friendly advice. It would be best if you had eaten your vegetables. But for... Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
So as it's in the past plain tense, does that roughly translate to it'd be best if vegetables were eaten?
Yes, exactly this.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. For the negative, though, it is best not to do it. The only tense this can be in is the plain negative form. So you can't say Tora o sawarana katta hou ga ii desu. You don't say this. You'd say Tora o sawaranai hou ga ii desu. It is best if you do not touch tigers. Are we good so far, guys? Okay, I'm going to give us a bit more detail to this when we get to the bottom of the slide. I just want to make sure I don't try and say most of all add each man to the front of the adjective. Okay. If you want to make Hodo the biggest of all, then you would say Hodo wa ichiban ookii desu. Ichiban means number one. Ookii desu, number one, big. Right, let me now come on to the bit which I wanted to break out of. Oh, here's a little summary, guys, if you want to copy that out, if you're not sure. I can see Annika waving her pen, so I'll give you a second to write this, just the summary.
So I've noticed when listening to Ishiro Sensei and Kotaro Sensei that you very often hear Hoga ides or just Hoga. Is it most often just used to indicate, well, it's best to do this, or because I don't understand everything they say, I only understand the small bits and pieces, or do they also use it in other circumstances?
So to look at the sort of elementary meaning of Hoga, it means this thing in particular, this particular way, or this particular thing. So really, what you actually have to listen for is that the Hoga is being attached to the thing they want to draw your attention to, a little bit like wa. And then you have to listen to the end of the sentence to hear what they're actually describing it as. So if you hear something Hoga ides, then you know that this means that this thing at the beginning was the better one to do. If you hear, and I know we did this later on from this class, there was this word mashi, preferable, then you know that they're saying this one is the of two. Mashi is really comparing 2 or 3 items to each other, saying this one is preferable. Tabeta hoga, kita hoga ides. So if you ever hear this kind of ta hoga ides, it means it's best to do this, best to do this way, or the best to do this. Yeah, they shouldn't be leaving opening sentences really. Hoga. Yeah, they'd almost certainly finish the sentence with either an adjective description, or if they're talking about a particular thing, a noun, then they might finish it with a verb to say this is the one. So for example, katana wa pen yori yoku kirimasu. A katana cuts better than a pen, for example. Yeah. So I'm guessing that you're trying to identify which is the key words in the sentence to pick up on in order to make the best understanding of the sentence without understanding the whole thing. Hoga means look at this. Yeah, a bit like wa.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, guys, I'm going to jump off this for a second and go onto the writing slide because I want to describe the difference between wa and no hoga. Clear. So I'm going to use the, if you guys remember, there was the story of Tomek and Łukasz in Japan. Łukasz and Łukasz Machura and Tomasz Gabrusiewicz, who I think most of you know. Siewicz, something like that. I don't know. Is that how you spell his name? Probably not. Something like this though. But we'll just call them Łukasz and Tomek.
CZ.
CZ. Thank you. Was the rest of the spelling correct? No. Oh. Okay. So we'll just call them Luke and Tomek for now. Okay, so sorry to be distracted. We've got lots of red kites in the UK now, these big birds of prey, and they've now started crying like a real bird of prey. We've had them for years, but they've only just started being able to hear them crying. And
Oh,
yeah, it's really amazing because this red kite is just a dot in the sky and I can still hear him. It's amazing. Simon, I know you're not impressed. You've got eagles.
Well,
we've
we
got
have
kestrels
lots
somewhere out
we
here.
have- if red kite is what I think it is, then we have a lot of them in Switzerland. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, but they were extinct in the UK, and they were reintroduced as part of a reintroduction project, and it's been
Okay.
one of the most successful reintroducing projects in the world, I think. But they introduced like 2 pairs, and if you drive on any highway now around London, you see dozens of them. It's amazing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, keeps all the dead mice. It keeps all the dead mouse bodies off the streets.
That's Gabrusewicz.
Gabrusewicz. Thank you. Grazie. Right. So the example was going to be, let's say Luke is better at Kesagiri than Thomas. So Luke is better than Tomek at Kesagiri. Okay. So I could say, let's look at some examples. I could say Luke wa Kesagiri suru. Oops, sorry. Suru no ga jouzu desu. Is that correct? Is that sentence grammatically correct, guys? You can unmute yourselves, by the way, guys. We're having a chat now, so I'm not going to ask you to repeat certain problems.
Yeah, it's Ga because it's not subjective.
Good. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. But all this means is that Luke is skillful at something like that. Skillful at Kesagiri. If I want to make a much more detailed comparison of Łukasz and Tomek, then I need to say Luke wa Tomek yori Kesagiri suru no ga jouzu desu. Okay. Don't worry too much about this. I mean, we've only just done this kind of this nominalization, so don't worry too much about this. But you can see this is how it is. Now, if it's clear in the conversation that we're comparing Łukasz and Tomek, so I know that I'm comparing the 2 of them. I'm talking to Ishido Sensei about it, and he says, "Well, to be honest, Łukasz is better at Kesagiri." Now, if I just said Luke wa Tomek, if I said Luke wa Kesagiri suru no ga jouzu desu, this doesn't infer a comparison. It just says Łukasz is good at Kesagiri. So in this case, I could say Luke no hoga. I don't have to say Tomek now. I can just say Kesagiri suru no ga jouzu desu. Now this is by having no hoga, it's pointing the spotlight on Łukasz. Amongst the 2, got Łukasz in one hand and Tomek on the other. It's pointing my face at Łukasz and saying he is better at Kesagiri. Okay, so it automatically creates a comparison if you use no hoga in comparison to using wa. If I use wa, then I need to put the other person in there as well. Otherwise, it's not clear that I'm saying Łukasz is better than Tomek.
So if you don't use wa, if you just leave it like this, Luke no hoga Kesagiri suru no ga jouzu desu, can you also infer that Luke is better than everyone else that is in the room, for example?
Could be, if it's not clear.
Okay.
But this is exactly the main difference, is that this says Łukasz is better at Kesagiri, not just good at Kesagiri.
Okay.
Yeah. This one up here, this one you can see if I've got just Luke wa kesugeri suru no ga jouzu desu, it just means Luke is good at kesugeri. It doesn't say better. It's not comparing. It's just saying, hey, he's good.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So nohoga, providing the person you're speaking to knows the population of things that you're comparing, then you can just use nohoga. You don't need to say who else he's better at. It already says he is better at kesugeri. Is that clear for everybody? What I've just said? Is anybody not clear? Because I can explain it in.
If you have context here, you can even just leave everything else out. You can just say noho ga jouzu.
One more time, Joseph, you broke up a bit.
You can say only noho ga jouzu because we already talked about kesugeri. We already talked about tomek. So you can just.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah, exactly. If we know we're talking about kesugeri and the comparison is between Wukash and Tomek, I could say Luke noho ga jouzu desu. Exactly. Yeah. So Annika, I'm going to give. Are you unsure at the moment? Annika, let's talk about your drinking problem, your alcohol drinking problem.
Okay, both of me.
Yeah, I can see that you often finish our Japanese lessons starting into beer. So yeah, I understand.
Okay.
It's not really a problem, is it? It's more of an opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Annika, what do you prefer? Beer, wine, or straw? How do you spell straw again?
STRNH, yes.
Oh, ST like this.
Yes.
What do you prefer? Beer, wine, or straw?
Beer.
Beer. Okay, so beer's number one. And what's next?
Wine.
Wine. And is straw actually your third most liked, or is it actually your most hated?
Most not. Yeah, most hated.
I mean, it's disgusting, right?
Yes.
It's like worse than drinking horrible Polish vodka. So this
Yes.
is like number up 100 out of things, and probably 99 is gasoline or something, yeah. Yeah.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So if I wanted to say, so Annika, I'm now talking to you. I would say, for example, beer to wine. Beer to wine. Beer no hou ga suki desu ka? So I've just made it a little sub sentence. Beer to wine. Wow. And then dot 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 dot. So we know we're talking about. Actually, let's make it easier. Nomimono wa. Talking to you, Annika. Here it is. Nomimono wa. Biru ga suki desu ka? Now, what does this literally mean at the moment?
For drinking, do you like beer?
Yeah, exactly. For drinking, do you like beer? But if I'm talking about drinks, alcoholic drinks, so I said nomimono wa biru no hou ga suki desu ka? What does this mean?
For drinking, do you prefer?
Right, yeah.
beer?
So this means, do you like beer basically more than anything else? Yeah. Okay. And then if I want to say, do you prefer beer to wine? I could say, oh, actually, you tell me the two ways of saying this. Do you prefer beer to wine? Oops, not wine. Okay, go ahead.
You said it before, right?
Yeah, but I want you to say it.
Biru to wine.
No. So
No.
I don't want you, I'm just now asking, do you prefer beer to wine? Yours is helping with finger bridges.
Yeah, but
Okay, let me help. So there's two ways of saying this. You can say biru wa wine yori suki desu. This is one way.
okay.
Or equally, I can also say biru no hou ga wine yori suki desu. is also fine. Okay, now we've only got two choices. I've got a can of beer and I've got a bottle of wine. It's obviously going to go for wine because bottle of wine's got more alcohol net content, right? Okay, it's a massive Steiner of beer, like the size of your leg, and a bottle of wine. Okay, so I'm going to ask you, which do you want? Which would you prefer?
Biru no hoga ii desu.
Yeah, right, exactly. Biru no hoga ii desu or ski desu, doesn't really matter. Ski or mashi to say prefer. But you have to say biru no hoga ski desu. If you just say biru wa ski desu, it just means I like wine. Sorry, I like beer rather. I like beer. So in this case, you need to say biru no hoga. Of the two choices, beer is the one that I want. Beer is best. Yeah.
But this was a question, no? Wasn't it? Do you prefer beer to wine?
Oh, sorry. At the moment I'm just giving the answers though. So the question, do you prefer beer to wine, would be biru ka wine ka dochi ga. Now I've got a choice. I can either say dochi. I can either say no hoga, or I can say just wa. Oh, sorry, dochi ga, dochi wa, dochi wa, ii desu ka? If you want to ask the question.
Dochi.
Dochi. No. Dochi or dochi, both are fine.
Okay.
Yeah. Dochi is just a shortening of dochira. Yeah.
Could we use Ichiban, which is the number one, since we are comparing two?
Right. So the thing with Ichiban means that it's not just a comparison of two. It really means it's going to be the most of everything in that population, in that group of drinks. So, for example, if you wanted to say, I prefer beer, and you want to infer more than any other drink, then Sophie, what would you say?
Biru. I like beer. Biru ga. Ichiban desu.
Well, I like.
Yes,
ski desu. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So this means I like beer number one, which means I like beer most of all out of everything. Yeah.
Belgian beer.
Oh, getting particular now. So you don't like IPA? You don't like India Pale Ale? You don't like Indian Pale Ale? I think it's time you left this class, Sophie. I don't want to see your face again here.
You can be dismissed for good taste.
Okay, Belgium's got pretty good beer as well. All right.
Okay, up to what I have tasted. So okay, it's open.
In that case, imamade, up to now, imamade, Belgi no biru no hoga suki desu. Yeah. Are we all clear so far on this? Because this is a good subject to go on. Okay, so Ichiban is fine. This means number one. If you're not sure, use Ichiban. It's really easy. You can put Ichiban, and then you can put any adjective after this you like. You can put an I adjective, you can put a na adjective. You can even put a verb in there as well, or most usually you can put a potential verb. For example, if I want to say beer, let's think. Oh yeah, beer refreshes most of all. Okay. This is true, isn't it, Annika? More than water. If you're thirsty, beer is best, right? Come on, you be a bit more enthusiastic about this. If you're really thirsty after really good practice, what do you prefer? A pint of beer or a pint of water?
pint of beer.
Right. Just making sure. So a quick sanity check there.
Because it's isotonic.
Of course it is. Yeah, it's got all these different chemicals in it. Really good for you. Yeah. So
I have one question.
okay.
If I want to say I like beer the most, it's also okay to say biru no hoga ii desu, or hoga suki desu, because it says the most. So I like it the most.
Yeah. Although it infers there's a selection, a defined selection of choices. Biru no hoga suki desu means I like beer the most, but it's in the background. There's a kind of, yeah, as I said, there's a selection of choices: wine,
Okay.
milkshake, gasoline, straw. Okay.
Mhm.
But if you want to say that I like beer more than all of them, so whether or not there's a selection of drinks and also all the other drinks which are not in this possible selection, then you should use this ichiban or this other thing I'm about to say.
Is there another way to say it, that you like it the most?
Oh yes, there is. I'm getting onto that now.
Okay.
Chattomate. So I just keeping on the ichiban for a second, and how to use it as a verb as well. You can say biru no hoga, and now to refresh is sappari shimasu. Sappari shimasu. So this says beer is the most refreshing. Beer refreshes the most. Okay, so ichiban is fine, but it does sound a little bit kind of slightly immature. It's not the best way of saying the most adjective. For that, we've got something called sai. Sai. If you look in your dictionary for sai or motto, mottomo, motto. Look up mottomo first, you'll probably find it quicker. It should be at the top. Yeah, mottomo. It's this kanji. So, this is sai, which means most. You can attach this to the onyomi, the Chinese reading of e adjectives, to give you a slightly more sophisticated way of saying something. So, for example, I know we went through this lesson before. You're going to have to use. You may need to use your dictionaries to do this, to find the onyomi of certain adjectives. Let's look at big. So, if I want to say the biggest, well, we know that big is oki, right? Oki. And if we click on oki and then click on the kanji menu at the top, then this will give us the kunyomi, oki, oki, or oini, etc. And then the onyomi, it's got dai and tai. So actually, it's in this case, it's dai. If I put sai dai in, then this means the biggest. In fact, if I type in sai dai into here, it gives it to me automatically. Sai dai, biggest. What about the tallest? Well, let's look up tall. This is takai, right? Takai. You get this kind of tower type of kanji with the lid on the top. Takai. Look up the kanji, and you see the onyomi is what, guys? What's the onyomi?
Cool.
Ko, yeah. Ko. So it's tallest. So I put in sai ko, should give me the tallest. Sai ko, there we go. Automatically I get the tallest. This means tallest. Also means the best. Actually means the highest level. And I think it probably also means the most expensive too. If you type in sai ko into your dictionaries, you'll probably find most expensive as well.
If you're using tallest for a person, it's the tallest back, isn't it? Sega Takai.
Sorry, can I just call you back, guys? Just a call's just come through, and I think it's my delivery. Sorry, I'll be
Oh,
back in just a sec.
Yes, Sega Takai, tall. But I don't know tallest. Ichiban Sega Takai.
Can you just look outside and see if somebody's going up and down? Back in a sec, guys. All right.
Does anybody remember what the top floor was? Saijokai or something like that?
The what up?
Top floor, like in a hotel, the penthouse, the top floor. Saijokai, or that's when we saw
Definitely.
this.
Kai is floor. So
And Jo is up above, so side Jokai must be the
Side
most,
Jokai.
the most the floor which is most upwards or most above.
It's
So
Jou.
it's
Side
Ue.
Joukai.
Side Jokai.
Thank you.
Jo is the same kanji as Ue.
Ue.
If you look for Ue, is the onyomi pronunciation for Ue.
Yeah. Show. Show. Thank you.
Oi, right.
Everything okay with Harry?
You're right.
Okay, Joseph, have you told them everything? What the answers are?
no, because I said Ichiban Sega Takai probably the tallest, but I don't know other Sai tallest as a person.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so this would probably be Sega Cycle to say somebody's the tallest, maybe. Certainly for a building, we've done this in one of the examples, haven't we? Do you remember how to say the top floor?
Tom?
Tom?
Saijokai.
Saijokai, yeah. Saijokai. So here, this is the most upper. So we got Saijo for Ue instead of Ko. Saijokai. What about the shortest, guys? Tell me what the shortest would be.
From Tanjo.
Good. So this would be, you're right, Tom. So this would be, shortest would be
Saitan?
Saitan. Yeah.
Okay.
Saitan. Exactly this. Yeah. What about the longest?
It's not Saito, is it?
Not tall, but
Saicho.
Saicho. Yeah.
When you've got a compound concept like Sega Takai, do you have to use like Ichiban, or is there a way of using a single kanji to mean the whole lot?
So you can, what you can say is Sega Saiko. Like that. So you still have to mark Se as your back, and then you have to say it's the tallest. Sega Saiko des. Yeah. I mean, if you said Sega Karega Ichiban Sega Takai, this is what most people would actually say to say somebody's the tallest. Karega Ichiban Sega Takai. So that you don't involve yourself with Karega Sega Saiko des. Just Saiko is usually reserved for saying the best rather than the tallest, to be honest. Yeah. Saiko. What about the heaviest?
Saiju.
Saiju. Good. Yes. Exactly. Saiju. Cool. Let's do Lytis before we finish.
Saikin?
Saikin, I think it's the closest or the most recent. If you look up karui for light, karui.
Okay, Psyche.
Psyche, good, yes, Psyche.
Ah, I'm looking at the wrong reading. My bad.
Psyche. Psyche. Cool. Any questions, guys? Got through that pretty quickly, didn't we?
Psyche in order that not brighter, but like as a, from the weight.
Not akarui, but karui.
So it's depends on the weight. Lightest.
Oh, sorry, right. Yeah, sorry. This, yeah, I beg your pardon. Yeah, this means as in weight. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you want brightest, this would be. Is this Saimyo? Saime, probably. Yeah, there we go. Saime. Obviously, there are like nearly as many e adjectives. There is one of these most adjectives. So you have to really go away and learn the learn what the onyomi is, but also just make sure that this compound of sai and the adjective are what you think it is. For example, sai ko, as I said, it's usually reserved to mean something that's the best rather than something that's the tallest or something that's most expensive. If you want to say something is most expensive, this is probably going to be ichiban takai. You have to stretch it out like this into the full word, rather than sai ko des. If you said kono kuruma ga saiko des, this means this car is best, not this is the most expensive car. Yeah. Ichiban no gakusei ni shitsumon ga kotaeraremashita. Where did that come from? That was reserved in some kind of automatic drop down. I have no idea. Okay, got 5 minutes left, guys. Anything else you want to ask before we finish? It can be about different subjects if you want. Okay, if there's not, then what I'm going to do is give you a quick preview of next week. I won't give you the questions, but I want you to start thinking about how to reconcile this, because it's basically revision. But next week is about going back to nai, because you'll probably notice by now, as we did at the beginning of today's practice, that when we're conjugating verbs in a certain way, we tend to use the plain negative form quite a lot. So I want you to think about how we use nai and how we make it. So how we turn all of the group 1, group 2, group 3 verbs into nai form. How we've used nai to say, please don't do something or shinai de kudasai. And as we just did, it would be better if you didn't do this. So this is a kind of subset of this no hoga, shinai hoga ii desu yo. It's better if you don't do this. Thinking about how we've used nai as an adjective. So if you want to say, for example, is it okay if I don't do this? Usually, to ask permission, we'd say shite mo ii desu ka? We use the te form. But for asking, is it okay if I don't do this? Then we turn this into the nai form, put kute after it, and say shinakute mo ii desu ka? You can't say shinai mo ii desu ka. This doesn't mean anything. You have to put it in this form, ikanakute mo ii desu ka? And then how we've used nai form in to say the obligative, so shinakereba narimasen. And then again, how we've used the nai form in group 1 and group 3 verbs to state the passive and the causative forms. Okay, so what we're going to do next week is just summarize all of these and practice them in all their different stages, so that we've got a really fluent use of the nai form. Okay, I can smell my dinner waiting for me. So I wish you all a good weekend and maybe see some of you on Sunday.
So now that you bring up the alcohol, I'm doing a gin tonic.
Yeah, it's Friday, man. It's Friday. Good. Right. Skål, kanpai.
Obrigado, gozaimashita.
Bye.
Arigato gozaimasu.
Arigato.
Matane.
Thank you.
Matane.
Weekend.
Bye.
Bye.
Matane.
Matane.